In this video, we're going to be taking a look at how we can take one of the standard bricks and then use it to build our other brick types that we're looking for. So I'll go ahead and take this flat brick one by one that we see here. I'll go ahead and duplicate it, and I'll move it out of this stack here, this grouping. So I can do that by either middle mouse dragging and drag out like that. If I hit undo, I can do Shift P, and that will unparent it. So that's a way that you can get this through here. I'm going to go ahead and take this folder that we see here for Geo, and I'm just going to hide it. So I'm going to select it and hit Control H to hide it. So now I've got just basically a copy of the brick that I had, and I can start to manipulate this thing. So I want to make one of these together to make this instead of one. I'll make it two. So I'm going to duplicate this thing. So if you go under Edit, Duplicate, hotkey for that is Control D. Let's duplicate this object, Control D, and then let's move it over and snap it to the grid. So we got it on our move tool, make sure it's on world. We can see our grid, and now let's hold down X to temporarily turn on grid snapping, and we'll move this over right here like this. Because we made our first grid block that works with our grid system, it's pretty easy to move it over kind of like this, right? So no big deal for that. But now we've got to combine these two bricks together. I'm going to turn off my grid real quick so we can see what's going on here. So I need to select both of them, and I need to get rid of the faces that are here, here, and here. So if I do F11 for my faces, or you can right click over this and say face, either way is fine. I can drag a marquee selection over this middle part, and I'm going to make sure I grab everything, including this part in here. Now I need to deselect, so to deselect I hold down Control and drag a marquee right here, but see I'm only deselecting all this part here, and I'm holding down Control, and I'm going to deselect all this here. So this should give me, if I zoom in pretty close, it should give me all the bevels and everything else like that, and I should be able to delete this out. So just hit delete or backspace, and you can see it deletes those parts out. And now what we can do, we can take all the verts, we can hit F9, or you can right click over this and say vertex, and we can drag a marquee over this section like this here, and now we're going to snap it to the grid. Again, for snapping, make sure it's on world, and we've got this here. So the other thing is I want to make sure I've got this move and snap settings, make sure this retain component spacing is turned off. If that is on, I can snap to the grid and I can move this stuff over, but you can see it's going to retain the spacing of this. If I turn that off like this, if I hold down X and then move this, it's going to snap everything to that piece on the grid that we've got like this. So I want to snap right in through here, right there like that. And then now I've got my two pieces, and it looks like I've got my brick ready to go. Now the next thing I need to do, I need to get this cube and this cube to be one object, so I can select this and hold down Shift and add to my selection. So I got these two bricks selected, and I'm going to go under the modeling set here, and then we're going to go to mesh and do combine, and that'll combine those two objects together. It's going to give you some history. Watch out for the history that gets built up in here. So we can go to edit and delete by type, history, and the hotkey for that, remember this one, Alt Shift D. That deletes the history. And then now basically I need to get my verts welded together. So it combined the object, and if you right click on here, say vertex, or hit F9, if I select one of these verts, I can move it across here. Let me get in real close, and you can see I can move that thing away, and it's not actually welded together. So I could do that for all these different points. So to get everything welded together, let's talk about welding verts real quick. So if I've got two verts, like if I grab these two here like that, I can Control right click, actually let's do Shift right click, sorry about that, and we'll do merge vertices, and we can say merge vertices to center, and if we do that, we're fine for that. It'll merge those two together. But watch what happens if I grab a group of vertices and do that. I can hold down Shift, right click, merge vertices to center. It's going to merge all those verts together. It's not what I want. But I do want an easy way to kind of merge all these verts together. and not have to go through here and tap G. If I tap G, it does my last command. So as I go through this, I'm actually snapping these verts together. So that works, but that's kind of painstaking, right? So if I know these verts sit directly on top of each other, I can just drag a marquee around all of them like that, and I can just hold down Shift, right click, merge vertices, and then go to merge vertices option box. Let's open that up. Make sure this always merge for two vertices is off, and I can give it a really low threshold. So this means anything that's sitting right over the top of each other is going to merge. So that might be a high number. I don't know. I can just go 0.001, so that's a pretty low number. And if I hit apply, it's going to merge all those verts together for me, right? One way you can kind of check this out and make sure it's working, you can tap 3 for smooth mesh preview, and if your model stays together, you know that you've welded them all together, and if you see some kind of hole or something like that, you can tell there's a problem. So I'll tap 1 to put it back onto the base cage. So that's kind of a quick way that you can kind of grab these things and make sure that they're welded together. Another way that you can kind of check this out is if you do some display settings, and I'll show you that. Before I do that, let's delete the history. We need to be in object mode, so you can tap F8. So you can tap F8 and cycle between that, or you can right click on here and say object mode and make sure it's on object mode. Alt Shift D is your friend, right? So go to edit, delete by type, history. So keep remembering that because you're going to do it quite a bit. So display settings, if we go to display and then we go to polygons and we go to custom polygon display, we can actually turn on border edges, and if there is any holes in there, it'll show up as a really large kind of line. So looks like I got a problem in my model here. So let's take a look, see how that line shows up, and this edge width is determining how large that actually is. I'm going to turn off this normals here like that, and I'm going to move around the rest of my object and just see if there's any other places where I didn't merge together. And so it looks like I've got this going on in here. So I'll just take these verts one at a time to kind of fix this problem. If I select a vert and I can frame on it, tap F, and then that becomes my center point to kind of rotate around with. And so I'll take this, I'm going to shift, right click, say merge vertices and merge to center. I'll do that one and then scroll down, maybe zoom out a little bit. Come here for this, tap G for my last command. I can tap F to kind of frame in there, and then maybe I grab that one, G for my last command, which is merging the verts. So that welded that together. And if we go here, tap G again for that one. I'm going to grab these verts and just tap F so I can frame and get kind of close. So that's why they didn't merge. Again, that threshold was low enough to where these things, when you get really, really close, they weren't sitting directly on the top of each other. So if I tap G again, I'm welding that together. And again, it's just replaying that last command that I had for shift right click merging vertices to center like that. Okay, so everything is welded together. I've got a lot of history built up. Want to get rid of that. Again, Alt Shift D. And so basically this gives me these two pieces. I could put it back into one group here. So I need the two tops and I need the brick part. So I'm just middle mouse dragging that into there to reparent it to that, and I can get rid of this empty group. And then now this becomes my group for this. You know, you might want to rename this top 01, and then maybe this is like top 02, something like that. And then maybe this is just cube, something like that. Just enough to make sure you can keep things straight, right? And so with that being done, you're able to take this one piece, you can select this group, and you can export this thing out as an FBX. So if you do File, Export Selection, and go to the option box, make sure FBX is selected, we can export that out, and we can call that a brick for ourselves. I'm just going to put it on the desktop real quick because I just want to temporarily do this. So temp brick like that, and export selection. And then if we hop on over to UE4, basically what I want to show you in UE4 is this. There are some import options for this. So if I got a flat brick, I can say I'm going to import something into here, right click and say import, and we can find on the desktop our temp brick. And when we open this up, take a look at the options for this. You might notice in Maya that was a group and it had 3 different meshes. When I wanted to come into UE4, I want it to act as one brick, so I do have this option to combine meshes. So that works in that case, and that's what I had to do if I wanted to keep the parts separate. So I had to export a separate FBX for this piece, this piece, this piece, this piece, right? So that will keep everything together. Now just kind of keep track of that. If you want to export a bunch of models out of Maya and pull it into UE4, this could kind of really screw you up if you've got that checked. So just know what you want to do with the models whenever you're trying to pull it in, and that'll help you out in that situation. So that's basically how you take a standard brick and then kind of push and pull it and create the other type of bricks from that. Now it took me a little while to make that little library. You guys are going to actually make your own custom brick, and so I'm going to take you through a process of actually building a custom brick out.